Hey YouTube, it's Jason with Grounded Roots Healing. I'm an alchemist and I want to talk about what it's like being a human punching bag for God. It's it's the role of a light worker, and I've had a good example of it very recently that I think I can. It's give me some clarity on it. I mean, I've understood this already, but uh, not getting drawn into the 3D drama is the key to all of this. Okay, so we are human punching bags. Oh, big bald eagle. Um, I'm just gonna watch this bird for a second here. Wow, I'll turn you around, but you'll never see it. Just for me. So we're light workers. What does that mean? As an alchemist, I know what it means. This is the label I give myself. The very specific archetype that I embody down here, and the eagle's back, down here is of that style. Now, those labels, they don't really mean much or shouldn't mean anything really. You shouldn't stick to them religiously, let's say. But it's a way for me to describe the kind of archetype that I embody, like I said. So as a light worker, you're down here and you're put in families, in environments, in work environments, in industries where you're needed the most. And those of us that have had the hardest trips, well, you can kind of look at that as maybe your ranking on the other side. How big of a light worker you are. How I mean, we're all important. We're all the same. But down in this play, as of this incarnation, let's say, if you're in a deep, dark hole, you're there because you shine the brightest. Your light is the only one that could illuminate that situation. Now, this pisses people off. Plain and simple. No one likes this. And this has been my entire life to this point. So recently I had a situation. I was supposed to go somewhere for work. This was a job. Now, in my industry, these jobs they're not contractual, but usually when you end up on a job, you end up staying on that job until it's finished. Then when that company goes, we move on to the next client. So this client, there's a person who is involved, who is working on this job exclusively, landed the client, let's say, and was maintaining the relationship with the client, but the job was essentially below the person's position. But they had been doing it. They have done it in the past, and they're good at it. It's just that I was supposed to come in and fill that role, and this person's ego got in the way. That's one way to look at it. So they had direct communication with the client. I did not. Therefore, I was getting everything secondhand and not understanding what's actually going on. Long story short, I got stabbed in the back, moved out of the position because this person's ego, it felt threatened. It felt like I was going to take something from them. It felt like it was theirs, this project, and that they didn't want anyone else in it. And Why would I be put in that position then? Ask yourself. So it's a choice point for that person. This is how we are the punching bags. So you take someone like myself, who's doesn't always make the right decisions. Of course not. We're not perfect. But on average, I make the morally correct decision more than I don't. This is what a light worker is. You're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. There are no mistakes, but you're going to be a shining light. You're going to make the decision, the correct moral decision, more often than not. You're not going to participate in that gossip. You're not going to, not every time, but most of the time, you're not going to do any of this stuff. So when you do that, say that a group is gossiping and you don't participate, and maybe you even say, hey guys, let's stop doing that. How do you think that affects the ego of the other people in the group? What you're doing there is you're shining a light on behavior that is egoic. You're not capable of participating in that. You may be able to fake it for a while, but you hate it. You hate doing that stuff. You don't like building your ego up on the expense of someone else. It's not in our nature. So when you say something like that, or you just don't even participate, people notice. Their ego notices, and then it aggravates that part of them that's trying to build the ego up. And then they'll start thinking things like, well, does he think he's better than us? Why is he saying that? Like, everybody else, the whole mob is doing this, but you're going the other direction. You're not participating. And they may like you at first, but after you do this enough and you aggravate that part of them, you shine the light on the part of them that's ugly, they're not going to like you. So you're a walking tower moment. And God, your higher self, is using you in this grand play down here in positions where the light needs to be shone. Where your behavior is going to shine a light on other people's bad behavior. How popular do you think that makes you? So, this is what happened. Now, normally, I just shrug when this type of things happen, because in my industry, this is the norm. Everybody looks out for themselves. They'll stab you in the back. You have to be cutthroat and more like them than not in order to even survive in this industry. But historically, I've made the right choice. I haven't screwed people over for my own benefit. And like I said, I make no friends in this industry. I just don't. I don't belong here. But I do belong here in that I'm shining a light on this bad behavior. So I did that again. And normally, like I said, I'd just shrug and move on to the next job because I have a big enough reputation and a career history to keep working. It's not like it's going to cause me to be completely unemployed because he's technically my boss. But what I didn't do is what I usually do is I shrug my shoulders and I don't say anything. Or I'll let them off the hook for the bad behavior. I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that I understand, you didn't have much of a choice. Or you're letting them off the hook. And this time I did not. In fact, I called it out. And I said, I don't believe you. I'm certain that you're doing things that it's self-serving. You're doing things that are self-serving. You don't have my interest at heart. You're not my best interest at heart. And that's okay. But I don't believe you. I'm not letting you off the hook with this. You're approaching me with a bunch of excuses because you feel guilty over what you did. And like I said, I'm not letting anyone off the hook anymore for this behavior. Fine. You stab me in the back. You win. You get this. Here's the problem. Karma's real. And I've been collecting karma. Getting stabbed in the back and not saying anything. And and allowing God to put me in these positions to shine lights on things for a long, long time. A long time. I have no friends because of this. I wasn't put in positions where people would be, say, wise enough to look at their own behavior and judge themselves and try to fix it or try to change. They are not enlightened. They're completely asleep. They're still in the university. They're still playing the game the way they've been taught to play this game in this industry. And that's how you're a punching bag. My question is, I have to live in this world still. I have to have one foot in the spiritual realm and then another where I'm controlled and at the mercy of these types of people, asleep people. Because it's not only my industry where this happens. So you will be going through the exact same thing. And if you can look back as a light worker, you'll be like me. You will understand what I'm talking about. You may not understand why. There's the role of the alchemist. So if you'd like to understand more, you can book a session with me down below in the description, where I can either explain this stuff to you, do guided meditations, energy work at a distance, all this type of stuff. In fact, go over to Dragon's Fire Alchemy, which is my second page, where I have a guided meditation over there, as well as you can book time. So I know you've been going through this because I know other light workers. I know one very specific one very well. And she worked in a completely different industry. She is very much like me. She doesn't participate in the gossip. She doesn't play all those games. And she shines a light just by her existence, just by good behavior, just by being a light worker, being a kind human who can see past all of this egoic stuff. The people at her workplace did the same thing. And, you know, they're all playing in these, let's say, office politics or favorites, and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and this kind of thing, and gossiping about other people and forming cliques, and it's very high schoolish. It's very much like when you were in school yourself, and it's kind of pathetic, you know. And 99% of the people, at least, are doing this. This is why I have a hard time finding friends, and so do other people. If you're a light worker, there's a very, very strong chance that you just being you has driven a lot of your friends away. Because they don't like you shining light on that stuff. It's no fun to look at the painful things that you do and the mistakes that you make. What they don't understand is they're in a university. And oftentimes what makes it worse is that I don't judge them. I might call out the behavior, but I don't judge it. I don't look at them as they're less than I am because they are still asleep. I was asleep 2 years ago. Like completely. Stuck in the matrix. I'm not anymore. Okay, so that just means I woke up sooner. It doesn't mean I'm better. So, you know, like I said, I got stabbed in the back here, but I don't hold it against that guy. Now do that. Have someone stab you in the back. Then you don't hold a grudge against them. You call them out on their behavior like an adult, and then you treat them like they're like nothing ever happened. They'll hate you more. They will. That aggravates them so much because that's who they want to be. Deep down, that's who we all want to be. We all want to make the right choices. We all want to be kind. We all want to not be self-serving POSs. But there's very, very few who can do it because you can't do it through force of will. You have to be in a place where you're awake to this stuff. And then it's not you. It's not the egoic mind or the body-mind complex that's making the decisions anymore and doing those backstabby type things. You're making your decisions from a higher space, a conscious, awake human being, and that's always going to be better. Small airplane just flew over. So, I'm where I'm at. I'm not surprised. No, quite on the contrary. I actually knew what was going on right away. I can see through everything. Nothing can be hidden behind a veil of words anymore. I can feel the energy from the person when they're trying to do something. They're saying one thing and doing another behind your back. It's as clear as day. So I knew this was going to happen. It still didn't. It pissed me off at first, for sure. And then I realized that the only way to look at it as this was a mission. This was another mission. I was inserted in the situation as a test for that person. That person was tested. I learned a lesson. And he failed the test. Now I've maybe caused some sort of thought in that person's head. Maybe to stop behaving this way. Maybe stop being self-serving. Or, this might come years down the road. I'm not sure. But I do know that I was put in that situation for a reason. It was a mission. I've completed that mission, and now I have to trust that there's something better for me. How many more of these missions can there be before I can get some sort of retirement from being that punching bag? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm trying to build Dragon's Fire Alchemy so I can teach this stuff, and Grounded Roots Healing, so I can teach this stuff to people who are willing to listen and learn and understand how to be better, to not judge themselves when this stuff happens, or actually trying to get better. I really don't want to have to be forced to interact with, well, I used to call them 3D monsters, but they're people who are still asleep completely. I don't want to be that walking tower moment. I don't want to be the big raven. Wow, there's my spear bird. I don't want to be that person anymore that has to be the walking tower moment. I don't want to be people's wake-up call. I want some peace. I love discussing this stuff. I love learning about it, but I want to do it with people who are on the path myself, who I can help maybe inch along that awakening journey, instead of, like I said, having one foot in the spiritual realm and the other and firmly in the 3D because I have to pay bills. It just seems ridiculous. But you don't get to pick. You picked this before. So all of this stuff was planned before. All of these encounters and these situations, it's all pre-planned. So I think I'm close. I think I'm at the point where I can get, say, a spiritual, what would you call that? Promotion. I can play a different role down here. Work with slightly different people. I would really, really appreciate that. And I would really love it. I'm asking God, I guess, is it time? Because I'm ready. I understand what the lesson is here. I don't need any more of these. I don't. It doesn't hurt me anymore. It's just, well, I learned it. I don't want to learn this stuff anymore. It's boring. Let's go on and talk to people who are on the awakening path, which I do, but, there's so few of us. Anyway, if you are a light worker, you will have had experiences like this, very similar, for sure. Everyone I know who's a light worker, this is your role. You're a light shiner. You're meant to be in those families that are really difficult and job situations that are really difficult. You've put yourself in them to help shine light on the bad behavior and maybe get people to think slightly differently, cause awakenings, activate people, all of this stuff. That's your role. You're the first one to wake up, and you're doing this for people. You've probably been doing it your whole life, and you probably don't have a ton of friends, and the ones that you do have, you cherish very well because they're so rare. So, I'm fortunate to be married to one, and I know a lot of others. Many of them, though, aren't awake yet. I know they're light workers, but they're not there yet. They haven't had that awakening yet. That's coming for them. And yeah, interesting place to be. I think I'll leave it there. Like I said, go over to Grounded Roots. No, this is Grounded Roots Healing. Go over to Dragon's Fire Alchemy or book a session below, and I can help you walk you through some of this stuff and help you move energies, help you deal with any blockages. Who knows? All kinds of weird stuff happens when people talk to me. So if you feel compelled to do it, please book a session. And like I always say, I hope this video finds you well. I love you all, and we'll see you soon.